This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities.
Welcome to Business, Equity, and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. First weekend of spring brings thoughts of starting. Flowers start blooming, the sun starts shining longer, and hopeful entrepreneurs start businesses. If that could be you, this hour is for you. Each week we speak to business professionals, community leaders, our own team of experts, sharing experiences to help you build and grow your own successful business. We have 7 segments that cover the things you'll need to know along the way: getting started, gaining access to capital, running your business day to day, and more. And we always wrap things up with a success story. We're here every Sunday morning on Wish TV and live streaming through wishtv.com. You can also see most of our content and share it on demand anytime at BE&O.com. That site grows every week with new stories, new resources. And while you're there, sign up for our podcast. You can listen to us anytime, anywhere, at the time convenient to you. We also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter that we update every Tuesday. A lot there and a lot here. Let's get to the business of business. Here's what's coming up today on Business, Equity, and Opportunities. We visit the AMP Food Hall to meet with an artisan chef, and we look at this weekend's Indiana Artisan Marketplace. Our CFO talks about the troubled banking picture in accounting and bookkeeping. The Idle George Museum presents the work of legendary photographer Dorothea Lange. And we wrap up Women's History Month at Eskenazi Health. But first, we're getting started with a visit to the AMP, an artisan marketplace on the near west side of Indianapolis. There we meet a chef who turned her own health crisis into a business that helps people eat healthier.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started. Chef Tawana Gulley is the founder and owner of Healthy Soul, a restaurant, meal prep, and catering business operating out of the AMP. For her, it's all about keeping her community healthy.
Healthy Soul came about, I guess you could say, for health reasons. I once was 345 pounds, a little bit over that, and was suffering from diabetes, chronic asthma, and just general overweight. Primarily in my day, I worked at an office, ran a medical office, and we sat all day. And I found out I had some fibroids. Finally got enough courage to go through the steps to actually have them removed, and found out that I couldn't because I had all these different things, medical issues going on. And so I always do things better when I do them for other people. And so there were other ladies in my office that got diagnosed with diabetes as well. And so I was like, well, maybe we could do something together. And so I went ahead and we started meal prepping. And I meal prepped it started out with 6 people. I think it was 5 or 6, give or take. And it kind of just snowballed into something else. We ended up actually walking 20 minutes a day and drinking our water like we were supposed to. And through that, I got a trainer, and I gave a trainer a meal, and Healthy Soul was born. She's like, you really need to do something with this. But I wasn't listening to her at the time. I was like, it's just food, but then she's like, you need to share what you learned in this process. So I think we had 4 of us that had A1Cs over 13. And through that meal prep and through the 20 minutes of exercise and eliminating a lot of the bad sugar, we went from, in 90 days, we went from those 13.7s to like 6s and 7s. So that was a traumatic change. Between the 5 of us, we lost over 100, and I think it was 103 pounds from just that 20 minutes of walking. And it was just life-changing for me. And so I finally did what the trainer said. She showed me a few things about macro counting, and I just kind of got really obsessed with it and was like, what can I do to change the way I'm eating but still love it? And then that is when I started coming up with these different concepts. I'm not a person who eats things like the same thing every day. It's like so boring. And then like vegetables was like this thing, like unless they were frozen or out of a can, they were just something you have a second thought about. And so I just decided to make them the focal point of everything that I do. So I put them in everything. And Healthy Soul just kind of, I came into the AMP. We just used to do it for athletes. and it was like everyday people who wanted to do a change, but sometimes they're not consistent with it. So when we came into the AMP, I talked to Craig and I showed him what I did, and he was like, oh, you need to do that here. And so the seasoning and all the things that came along with that were kind of like me condensing everything into one product and model. And shout out to Brian Henley. He redid my logo for me, and we just never looked back. I really thought I could just show up and cook, but I tell you, I learned like no. So I really had to step up my being a businesswoman. And looking at opportunities and saying like, okay, I can't do that. Now I don't say I can't do that. It's like, okay, let's figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And if you get past on an opportunity, I don't look at those no's as like, oh, that's because you didn't do a good job. I look at it, okay, this is another opportunity for me to learn and grow. What was I missing? You know what I mean? So we look at it like that. The first week we were in here, we did VIP. And that was like a huge experience because you get exposure to things that you've never been exposed to, and being in that environment, that many people eating your food and saying like, wow, what is this? Where are you at? That puts you in go mode. It's like, oh wow, I really can do this. Cause like, even though I got here, I was still on the fence of like, is this really something I could do? But they kind of give you that encouragement, and there's a lot of opportunities that come about from just being in the AMP environment, like, getting to know your vendors, the people who are next to you. I mean, we collab so much. Like we're doing things now where we're taking a taste of AMP into different places, and so that is really important. So I think we kind of built a little family. And we kind of the opportunities that come along, we're always sharing with each other and trying to push each other forward. I'm a dreamer. I always like to dream big. So, I think food has so many different avenues that you can go down. As for me, it's opened up a lot more private chef opportunities. We do a lot of catering, but also it's given me a spotlight to it's put me in the spotlight for kids in our community that need more training, who need to be exposed to better eating habits like meal prep, and knowing that, you can go to a farmer's market and that their voice can be influential to their parents to like kind of change the way that they do things, because our community as a whole perishes for lack of knowledge. And all the things that I learned, I want to try and make sure that I can go into these places and show these kids, not whether it be just the good eating habits or just the entrepreneurship piece of it, that I look like them. I look like the Black and brown kids in this community. I look like their aunt, I look like their sister, and so I feel like they'll listen, and then I'm giving them a good example of how that could go if you just step out on faith. We have started to just go into the schools. Like we've done Tierney, Accelerator Academy. We're going to be over at Christmas Addicts, and we're just generally going to be in there talking about the importance of making better food choices. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're in a restaurant or if you're at home, because the kids are like, we're subject to what their parents buy, but some kids, they do have the opportunity to say like they're going to the grocery store with their mom, so if they know better, they do better. Let's eat this instead of this. Once you get that information, then you're more likely to use it. And so that's the biggest thing that we want to make sure that you just get the information. And so we partner with a lot of the community's leaders to kind of help me get into these spaces, like McCoy, and then also developing training camps and boot camps that the kids can go through over the summers that can really immerse them in that type of atmosphere. So it won't be just a one-time thing where you just leave it, it's one and done. It's a process. And the more places you go, the more times you see the kids, the more you interact with them, then that information is disseminated throughout. Culinary arts, or just food in general, just is my happy place. In anything that I've ever done, the basis of it, I could be mad, I could cook. If I'm upset, I could cook. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that I learned to do differently is change the relationship with the food. So, we definitely are what we eat. And so you can change little things and make a big difference. And when I see people eat that, it's like, wow, it's like supercharged. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and you don't even realize, like, you just ate a bunch of vegetables that were stuck in there and you had no idea. So that just brings me a lot of joy just to see that.
If you'd like to learn more about the start of the AMP or Healthy Soul, visit us at BEOshow.com. If you have a question or you'd like to appear on the show, please send us an email, BEO@wishtv.com. Still to come this hour, we look at the week in business. First, though, a company with the goal of helping you make connections you'll need to succeed. That's on the other side of this break. You're watching Business Equity and Opportunity.
Getting started, made possible by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Time to access capital and more, all in the same place in this case. A national network of investors, mentors, customers, and corporate partners.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Access to capital.
Tjoelker is Director for gBETA Energy and Sustainability for Gener8tor, and Natasha Jensen-Matta is Director of Small Business for the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. They share how organizations are partnering to provide startups with the connections they need to succeed.
So Gener8tor believes in investing in the best and brightest, no matter where they are or who they are. And so gBETA really, with the help of the IDC, really is a curated program for founders to meet them where they're at and then to be able to help them move towards the next right step for them and accelerate their business. So yeah, really the benefit for the founders is that we bring in a lot of different mentors and investors for them to meet to grow their network and to really understand what is going on in the greater ecosystem. So I think two of the big value adds for those founders is accountability and access. Accountability to continue working in the nitty-gritty of the trenches of the startup life, access to capital, access to the mentors, and then ultimately access to community of founders so that they're not as alone. So we've been running gBETA programs in Indiana for over 5 years now, and we've run dozens and dozens of programs across many different industries. And so we've had a lot of success. Indiana is one of the longest running programs for the gBETA program, and we've had some of the most successful companies from gBETA from Indiana. I think our secret sauce is really our partners in Indiana. We have some incredible partners that we work with, that we bring in throughout the process, that really sets Indiana apart from the rest, I think. So we're currently running energy and sustainability program and a 5G program. So we're working with partners with like the Battery Innovation Center, Crane, the mill out of Bloomington, and for the 5G program we're working with the IoT Lab and the 5G Zone, among others.
Since our partnership's inception in 2018, we've really been focused on developing the ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship around the state. Gener8tor has been a great partner for the state of Indiana, helping over 130 companies across the state in those 5 years that we've been partnered. This program really allows us to combine that technical assistance, that direct support for entrepreneurs, and facilitate an ecosystem that builds and supports entrepreneurs throughout their entire journey. The state of Indiana has outlined strategic areas of focus for us in our industries for entrepreneurship and innovation. This partnership with Gener8tor and the gBETA program allows us to focus on those areas. Some of those industries include 5G, Industry 4.0, future of mobility, and entrepreneurship as a whole. Before our partnership with Gener8tor, the state of Indiana didn't have any accelerators in the state. So over the course of 5 years, we've really developed the ecosystem here in Indiana and become a thought leader in the areas of innovation and entrepreneurship. The state of Indiana is really here to support small businesses and entrepreneurs along their entire journey, whether that be at the startup phase or throughout their business growth or exit. So we're really here as the state to support those entrepreneurs and make sure that they have all of the resources they need to succeed. The IADC is really focused on our strategic areas of industry and specific support mechanisms for entrepreneurs. This year with the gBETA program, we've invited entrepreneurs and founders from out of state to come to Indiana, one, to take advantage of the incredible gBETA program, but also see what Indiana has to offer for their small business.
If you'd like to learn more about Gener8tor, look for a link on our website. It is BEOshow.com. Maybe help you access some capital. Coming up later, accounting and bookkeeping and the return of our station's top money man, Tai Shea. Before that, more artisans gather at the fairgrounds this week. We'll tell you all about it when Business Equity and Opportunities returns. Welcome again to Business Equity and Opportunities. The Oxford Dictionary defines artisan as a worker in a skilled trade, especially one that involves making things by hand. Most often it refers to arts and crafts or food that's artfully presented. This weekend, many of Indiana's artisans are gathering at the State Fairgrounds. We caught up with one whose work is delicious.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. This Week in Business.
Marsha Quarles is an Indiana artisan who operates Marsha's Specialty Desserts and Tierney's Catering. For a certified Indiana Artisan membership has advantages.
We are at Marsha Specialty Desserts and Tierney's Catering. We're in Avon, off of Rockville Road. We are a specialty dessert and catering company. We're family owned. There's 6 of us. We've been in business since 2010. So the Indiana Artisan program highlights and features the best of the best in the state of Indiana for art, no matter if it's baking, if it's drawing, if it's photography, and it has meant a lot to us. Our pound cakes is what we were juried in for, so they had to determine that we put as much love and care and attention into our product. We know that we do, and they thought that we did too. So that really meant a lot. We work hard and we love what we do. You have to love what you do, no matter what you do, because it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. So when you come to the marketplace, you will see some of the most beautiful pieces of work and art that you have ever seen. It is truly magnificent, from pictures to food, all kind of food artisans. There'll be wine there. It is just spectacular. And if I'm not mistaken, there will be over 100 artisans this year. So it will really be really nice. We do a lot of specialty events. So even though the gatherings may not be as large, they're still having them. So we do a lot of weddings, we do a lot of bridal showers, baby showers, corporate events, because people are still working. So we have been blessed in that area. We have continued to work, so we're very fortunate. Love what you are trying to do. That is the number one thing. You have to be passionate about it, because it's a lot of work. It's really, really hard being an entrepreneur. It's not what people think. It's not a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5. It is totally consuming. It can consume you, your time. Customers can contact you, 9 and 10 o'clock at night. It's really, really difficult. So you have to love what you do, or you will become burned out, and that wouldn't be good for anybody. So in order to be successful, I would say that's the number one thing. Be really, really invested and involved and engaged and love what you do. I would say next, have a good support system. We are blessed. There are 6 of us, so we can lean on each other. We automatically have a support system from jump. So that has been a true blessing. That's the next thing. And then I would say, just treat others the way you would want to be treated. Be kind. Don't be mean and nasty to people. That means so much. Smile. When somebody comes up to you at the marketplace, we always are smiling. Thank you so much. My sister taught me this. Thank you for stopping by. People don't have to stop and look at your stuff. And they remember that. A lot of times people come back and buy because we were kind and we are friendly. And we try to take the lessons that Granddaddy taught us and implement them in our everyday life. We really strive for that, to help others, be kind, do good. I love when people don't want to cut their cake because they love it so much. That means so much to me. I just love that so much. And they're very serious. They do not want to cut it at all. So I love that moment.
This Week in Business is made possible by InnoPower. This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities, Accounting and Bookkeeping.
It is time on Business, Equity, and Opportunities when we talk accounting and bookkeeping, and it seems the banking world is top of mind for anybody thinking about dollars and cents right now. Certainly true for our Chief Financial Officer at Circle City Broadcasting. Taisha joins us from time to time, and a good time to talk now. Hope you're well. What are your, general thoughts on the banking situation in America right now?
Sure. I won't opine too much on what I see to be the long-term potential effects on that. I think one thing I can add and would have folks do that are concerned about their depository accounts is a couple things you can do to potentially mitigate your risk are do a little research on your bank. There are resources out there that you can look at that can basically gauge the financial health and stability of your bank. One that comes to mind is called the Bauer Financial Rating System. You can find that with a quick Google check. And the other thing you can do is just talk with your lender or depository officer. Just get a feel for kind of the overall portfolio of your bank and kind of get a sense of perhaps how risky that bank can be. I mean, I think one thing that should be noted about the Silicon Valley Bank was that, they had a very niche portfolio that I think contributed to what we saw a couple of weeks ago. And so, that can certainly affect things. But it's something as a potential, if you're looking to put your funds in a bank like that, you should be aware of a potential niche like that could, have some risk sensitivity if things were to change in the market.
Yeah, it is certainly interesting. We're here in the heartland, maybe not necessarily knew much about, Silicon Valley Bank or Signature Bank, which is a maybe more familiar name. Credit Suisse, we've heard about, but often not one that we'd have day to day with. But now all of a sudden it's top of mind. It occurs to me as I listen to you that it's a good idea to maybe revisit a theme you've hit on from time to time. Communication, relationships, any questions, right. They should be able to answer for you.
Right. Isn't it funny how communication seems to come up every time we talk? And it also, I think, illustrates how important that relationship is with your banker in so many facets of your business. Sure. And really, that should be a rock solid relationship. And open communication is certainly part of that. Another thing to note, with the FDIC insurable limit, it went up since 2008. So it used to be $100,000, now it's $250,000. And so, the likelihood, there are measures in place to, safeguard your assets and just be aware of those and have those conversations.
When we talk, it's always about small business owners, and in that way, a lot of these are the institutions we would turn to for access to capital. Borrowing dollars from the banks, does any of what we've seen with the depositors getting nervous seem to have an impact on that side of their ledger and ours?
Yeah, well, there is a cause and effect where, basically banks are allowed to lend based on the amount of deposits they have in-house. And so if there is a run on depositors pulling their money out, there is an offset that has to happen on the lending side where they may not be able to lend as much as previously. So they are intertwined, and there's, that's why I certainly, from all perspectives, we're all, hoping and anticipating that that there wouldn't be a run on the depository side, because that pendulum would potentially swing on the lending side.
I guess as a final question, kind of draw back on your experiences. You probably well remember the S&L crisis. You worked during the time of the banking crisis, and then there are decades and decades ago where we saw similar situations. At the very least, would you say that each time there is one of these shock waves, that there are adjustments made with the goal of making it safer the next time something like this happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think that is kind of borne out over time, where you can see measures put in place, whether it be the arm of the government trying to safeguard assets. And the idea is to obviously calm the general public and try and assure them that, to have confidence in the system. But yes, with each one of these, measures are put in place, safeguards are put in place to kind of counteract or prevent of something like that had just happening in the future.
All right, well, it'll certainly be something that people watch, and as you advise, talk with bankers about, maybe set each other at ease with those relationships that we talk so often about. And thank you for the time and conversation as well, Ty Shea.
Thank you, Scott.
For more information about accounting and bookkeeping or any of the topics we cover, visit BEOshow.com. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter that we update every Tuesday. Subscribe to the Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. Listen whenever you want. Coming up, our industry focus. Next, though, another lesson in running your business day to day when Business Equity and Opportunities returns on the other side of this break. This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Hi, I'm Scott Sander. Time for running your business day to day. A familiar story. Fledgling entrepreneur starts making a product at home. It turns into a small business operated out of a garage, which it then outgrows. Where can you go to grow? One option is a place like 16 Tech.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Running your business day to day.
Caitlin Vossler is the founder and owner of Cream and Concrete, a hand-poured concrete goods business she started in a tiny garage. She quickly outgrew that space and set up shop in 16 Tech. Not only gave her growing room, but much-needed support.
I originally, right after college, I wanted to do something with my hands and just be creative on the side. Started a little Etsy shop, and then that turned into going to different markets and events. And then as people started hearing and seeing the products I was making, it started with, knit things, concrete planters for myself, stuff like that. But then once the markets took off, I said, I'll make an Instagram, I'll start a website, and then it kind of took off from there. It was in my garage, backyard, just me outside after work, going and pouring concrete, making concrete planters for local stores and things like that. And then it became a little too much for just the garage, so we were looking for other studio spaces, and that's kind of where the machine came up for us. So that's kind of the origin of it all. When COVID hit, my other job stopped, so my main job was just doing the side concrete. And on Instagram, it had popped up. I don't know if Machine had messaged me or if I had kind of seen an ad or something. It said a workspace that you can come and work on, starting a business. And I thought that would be a really cool thing if I can get out of my garage and have a little space and use some tools. So once I got in here, it was super inspiring to feel kind of like I'm not just in my garage anymore. There's other people that I can bounce ideas off of, and then just start getting more creative with the tools that I had access to. So I could, if I wanted to try out a prototype or use a wood tool or cutting things like that, I could just go and try it out and get creative. And there were people next to me making things that would see what I'm doing and say, why don't you try this and see if you can do that, and I can help you with that. And it was really cool to just feel like my business felt more in a community space, and it felt more legitimate in a place like this than in my garage, so that was really cool. Business-wise, I think mentally it made it feel more legitimate to me in the first place, and then being able to see how did you start your business from here, what did you do with this sort of topic that I might have questions on for other people around me. And I saw that they could take something that started so small into something big, and was able to think that I could do that for myself too. I was surprised first how many tools I could have access to and not have to go and buy them myself. It was crazy that they're like, yeah, here's a welding tool, here's a laser cutter, here's a machine that I've never seen before, a CNC massive cutting router, and just being like, I can learn to use that and I can make whatever I want with that. That's really cool. So that was like very surprising. And then when we were here for about 6 months, I saw a lot of growth in our business to where I didn't think it would grow that much that quickly. So after we were almost a year, we realized that we might not be able to fit in this tiny space. So we started looking around for other buildings and studios, but still knowing that we can come back here and use any of the tools. So we actually have a studio space about a minute away from here, staying close and using like the different tools and things like that as we continue to grow. After a year being here, I hired one girl, and then my husband came on full time, and we realized that space wasn't going to be big enough as far as the little garage spaces, but we still wanted to be able to use the tools. So as we kind of grew out our business, our online presence, our markets, we moved into a bigger building, took the step of actually buying the studio building, and then hiring some more hands, bringing more people on. We were able to make more, and that kind of grows your business as you go, and still being able to create and tinker in here as well. Whenever people have an idea or they want to start something, my first thing is try it, do it, because I think the main hurdle is just starting. It doesn't have to be perfect right when you start. I think I wanted it to be, right where I wanted the business to end up when I started, but there's so much learning that you have to do when you first get into it, and you just have to have that experience of learning from mistakes. So I would say don't hesitate to try and at least start something and see where it goes from there. Well, we are currently working on bigger products. So right now we're doing more candle vessels, planters, trays, and jewelry. And we have just finished our first concrete countertops customized. We do concrete furniture. We're getting into concrete sinks and tiles and things like that. So a lot more high-end interior design, bigger pieces. Super excited about just coming up with new designs and new ideas. I think that gives me the most energy in life. So I love thinking, what else can I make out of concrete that's not out there or not seen as much? I like to think of high-end, changing concrete from this kind of cold construction view to more beautiful and simple and clean. It was a big step for me to leave the garage, and I feel like once I made the step to come in here, it really escalated where I thought the business could go and what the business could do. So having this space was a really cool stepping stone for me and my business.
If you'd like to learn more about 16 Tech, maybe if it can help you run your business day to day, visit BEOshow.com for more information. Later, we wrap up Women's History Month at Eskenazi Health. Up next, our industry focus on the work of a woman who showed the world the Great Depression. More business equity and opportunities after this break. It is time on Business Equity and Opportunities when we focus on an individual industry. If you don't know the name Dorothea Lange, you may well have seen her work at the very least. She was a photographer who traveled the country during the Great Depression. Today, her work is still traveling and making a stop at the Idle Drawer.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities, Industry Focus.
Dorothea Lange was an incredible woman, an incredible artist and photographer. I think that she truly engaged with the people that she was photographing and understood the fact that photography was, and a photograph, a single image, was the start of a story, and that each person that she was interacting with, as she sort of documented their lives and their experiences, it was part of a larger narrative. She famously said that the camera is a tool for helping us learn to see, and I think she just had eyes that allowed her, and she worked to develop that, right? She worked to develop her view and her understanding of who people were, what their experiences were, and maybe how the larger American society could help out people who were being excluded from upward mobility. This is a traveling exhibition, so in some ways this kind of set of photographs came to us already selected, the photographs, you'll see Dorothea Lange's kind of entire career, which I'm really excited about because her photograph, Migrant Mother, is so recognizable, so iconic, and it's here. You can come see it. It's a large print of it, an original print of it, and so we're really excited for people to see that. But you'll also see scenes from her entire career. Some of her early portrait photography. She opened her own studio in San Francisco as a young single woman. She arrived there, she got pickpocketed the day that she arrived in San Francisco, and so literally built her career up from nothing. So you'll see those kind of early days of her portrait photography. You'll see those iconic Great Depression images. Migrant Mother being the most famous. White Angel Breadline is a photograph that was kind of her turning point, her entrance into Great Depression photography. She saw this line of unemployed workers waiting for food just outside her studio, looked outside the window and saw them and felt compelled to go and start capturing the scenes. So you'll see those, but you'll also see her career after the Great Depression. Very much less known is the fact that she documented Japanese internment camps, and like the image behind me. And she was hired by the government to do that, and they thought that she might promote the internment camps. That was the idea for hiring her. But instead she began taking pictures before the transportation of people of Japanese descent took place. So she took pictures of them in their daily lives, contributing to society, having working farms, going to school, things like that, and then also took pictures of them in the internment camps. So you'll see those works of hers from the 1950s and into the 1960s. We also then have a section of other well-known Great Depression era photography, Charles Lee, Ben Shahn, folks who worked for the Farm Security Administration like Dorothea Lange, and others who didn't officially work for the FSA but sort of did similar things. Doris Ullman documented the life of Black people in South Carolina and sort of their struggles with rural farm work and things like that. So you'll see kind of ways in which different photographers engaged with the Great Depression. We're really hoping to inspire people now that photography has become such more of an accessible art. You know, we have a model of the type of camera that Dorothea Lange used, the big bulky thing. Nowadays, everybody has a camera on their phone in their back pocket, almost everyone. And so we conclude the exhibition with a section profiling contemporary photographers who are engaged in kind of similar documentary photography practices for social change. And then we're also inviting museum visitors to submit their own photographs that will be part of a slideshow at the end of the exhibition. And so we hope for people to think carefully but confidently about the ways that they too can use their camera to document the dignity and humanity of people around them and share those images with people who need to see them. The exhibit opened in March and will be open through the first week of August.
Changing Views, the photography of Dorothea Lange, continues now through August 6th at the Eiteljorg. If you want more information about it, visit BEOshow.com for a link. When we return, we meet the subject of this week's success story. This is Business Equity and Opportunities. Stay with us. Welcome back to Business Equity and Opportunities. We have celebrated the accomplishments of several women this week as part of our tribute to Women's History Month. We have one more to introduce you to in our success story, a leader in the field of women's health.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities Success Story.
Dr. Elizabeth Ferries-Rowe is the Chief of Obstetrics and Gynecological Services for Eskenazi Health. It's her mission to make quality women's health services more accessible.
I am an OBGYN. I am an IU Health employee who is employed by Eskenazi. I've been here for 17 years as faculty. For a number of years I was Chief of Service for OBGYN, and then a few years ago became Director of Women's Services, which is a sort of larger position that incorporates both inpatient and outpatient care involving women and patients undergoing gender care. I work with a fantastic group of people who I think is really dedicated to the mission of Eskenazi, which includes the care of women in all walks of life, including those who are experiencing challenges to receiving medical care. And then my patients are those people. So I see patients from the local community. My clinic site is on the west side, so that's sort of my people. I have a west side is the best side sweatshirt from the clinic. And then I also see patients here at the hospital. I see patients in all ranges, from employees all the way to employees of the health department, as well as people in the community. And one of the things I think I like most about the work I do is the variety, both of the work and the people that I care for. I think there are not a lot of people who have the opportunity to need 7 different languages to round on the postpartum floor. And I think that's one of the really cool things about working here, is kind of meeting people and working with people from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of experiences. As I was thinking about sort of my career and how long I've been here and things we might talk about in this interview, Marilyn Graham was an OBGYN who was sort of the face of OBGYN at Wishart when I was a resident, a med student and resident. And she truly was, to me, sort of the exemplar of like a servant leader. And I think that's, do I consciously think of her every day? No. But is she sort of how I model my career? Yeah. And she was in the role of Chief of Service until she passed from ovarian cancer. And so that was also sort of a both sides of the medical care experience, to watch her go through that and continue to work as long as she possibly could, because she really felt a call to serve the patients of Wishart. And I do feel like I kind of follow in her footsteps. So yeah. I want patients and the patients that I care for and their families to feel empowered to access care and to ask for the care that they need. I think an expansion of that in sort of the educational side of my work is to try and create skills in learners that help them to meet patients where they are and engage patients on a level that makes it possible for them to get the care that they need. And then sort of in the beyond Indianapolis service role, I'm also chair of the Indiana section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So I have been working to try and expand that kind of patient-centered skills to all of Indiana and to all the providers in Indiana, physicians, and we also have nurse practitioners and APPs who attend those meetings, because I think part of the challenge for all physicians right now is burnout, right? And figuring out how to make the job meet our needs as well is a way to prevent that. And I think making it about how we care for patients and how we create healthcare systems that make it possible for us to care for patients in the best way is a way to approach that burnout as well, and to provide better care across the state. I think figure out what it is that you love about medicine and create a job path that optimizes that, right? If what you love is delivering babies, then find a job where you deliver babies. And that can be hard because, especially when you start out, there's a sense of like, I have to take what's offered to me because this is the opportunity that's here. And there's a fear that if you say no, people won't ask again. And so figuring out how to balance taking the opportunities that come with the rest of your life is very important. I struggle a little bit with the concept of work-life balance. It's a big buzzword, right? But what does that mean? Your work and your life are the same thing. It's not like you drop work and come home and do the rest of your life and like have to sort of balance the scales at the end of the day. It's really more about how you integrate all aspects of your life, which is your family life and your work life and your exercise and your hobbies and whatever it is that, you know, that helps keep you balanced. And so for me, I think it is about always, if I were to talk to an incoming female physician, I would say find what it is that you love about the job and prioritize that. And does that mean that sometimes you'll do things that you don't love? Yeah, it does, right? Like, there are lots of times that you have to put in work that you don't love to do the part that you do love. And it's okay to do that as well. But kind of always keep that one nugget in mind, that this is why I do this for a living, and make sure that that kind of is prioritized. And that's your kids too, right? And that's your husband too, and that's your parents, and that's your dog who needs a walk. And it's, it's about how to figure out all of those things in the day. But if you can get to the end of a day and be like, you know what, today here's a good example. Today I delivered a couple babies, did a lovely interview. I'm gonna go help my husband coach high school speech, because I did high school speech, and there's a female student who asked for some help with that. And then I'm gonna come home and, make dinner and watch TV and go to bed. And if you can have a day where you get to deliver babies and coach speech and spend time with your kids, like, that's a good day. And so I think it's about trying to figure out how to integrate that in every day.
That's Business Equity and Opportunities for this week. Our thanks to everybody who shared a story and an experience. We hope the hour gave you something to help you make the move either into entrepreneurship or further the work you're already doing. If you need to learn more about anything on today's show, go to BEOshow.com. We have past segments from all of our 7 weekly topics there. And please listen and subscribe to our Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Sign up for our newsletter. We update it every week, every Tuesday to be specific. If you have questions or you have a success story of your own to share, send us an email, beo@wishtv.com. We'd love to hear what you have to say. We're here every Sunday morning on Wish TV, or you can stream the show live on wishtv.com, and we'll be back next week with more Business Equity and Opportunities. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for watching.
Business, Equity, and Opportunities is made possible by Indiana Economic Development Corporation and InnoPower.